So we're going to start in our Shavasana. So lying down on the mat, feet coming out to the sides. Just going to lie down and we're going to have our palms facing up. So the same position that we normally end our session with. And we're just going to allow our palms to look up towards the ceiling. Start to close down the eyes and just allow the body to become nice and heavy. And as always, we're just going to use these few moments just to check in with how we're feeling, both in our body and in our mind. Noticing any areas of tension or stress that we might want to focus on. Listening to our energy levels, so whether we're feeling a bit fatigued today or whether we're nice and energetic, and then as we go through our flow, we're really listening to what our body's telling us. Just going to start to focus in on that breathing as we start to leave our thoughts to one side. And we're just starting to bring those inhalations and exhalations nice and deep as we inhale through the nose and then exhale loudly out the mouth. And again, taking a nice deep inhale and then exhaling loudly. Just going to start to connect with our Ujjayi breath, our yogic breathing, as we start to inhale and exhale through the nose. So we're starting to make that restricted feeling at the back of the throat, that oceanic sound that the breath makes as we go through this breathing. And we want to try and keep each breath to a count of 4. So nice, slow and controlled breathing patterns, helping us to focus our mind, and it will also help us to get the oxygen flowing nicely around the body. So we can start to open the eyes, and we're just going to bring those knees in towards the chest and give them a bit of a squeeze. And then we can just place our hands on our knees and just start to make a couple of circles, as big or as small as you like. And we're going one way and then we're just going around to the other direction. And then we're just going to place the hands under the knees and we're going to start to do a couple of little rocks just forward and back, starting to get a little bit bigger until we get enough momentum to come to a seated position on the mat. Sitting up nice and straight, we're going to bring the hands down onto the floor. If you can't quite reach your hands to the mat, you can always bring them to the knees. And we're just going to sit up nice and straight and just tilt our head over to the right hand side. And then coming over to the left. And then back to the right. And one more time. And then back to centre, and this time we're just going to bring our hand down onto the side, and we're going to bring the other arm up and overhead, looking up at the hand. You might want to come down onto the forearm if you can, but you want to make sure your sit bone stays onto the mat, so just coming to wherever you feel comfortable today. And then bringing that hand down by the side, we come over to the other side. So you should feel a nice stretch down the side of the body. And then just coming all the way back up. We're just going to bring the hands down in front of us, roll over those knees and come into our first tabletop position. So we want to have our hands and knees about hip distance apart. We want to have a nice relaxed spine. and we want to be looking towards the end of the mat. And we're going to start by doing a couple of cat-cows. So keeping those elbows locked in place, we're going to inhale, we're going to lift the tailbone, look forward, creating a nice curve in that back. And then as we exhale, we're pushing through the hands and arching the spine as we look towards our belly button or our inner thigh. Inhaling to come up. And exhaling. And one more time. Inhaling to come all the way up. And exhaling as you push down into the mat. And then finding that nice neutral spine. And we're just going to lift that right arm all the way up as we open that side body, looking up at the hand. And then bring it down and then up with the other side. So really lengthening our body as much as possible there. From here, we're going to sit back on our heels, bring our arms out in front. We're coming into our child's pose. So this is our resting pose. This is a pose that we can come down into whenever we feel we need to during our practice. If anything gets a bit much, just bring it down to this nice, easy position. So we can have the head on the floor, or we can have it just hovering. Or if you want to, you can even use your hands as a bit of a pillow. So it's completely up to you. And we're just taking a couple of breaths here. And then from here, we're just going to slide the hands forward as we bring the tailbone over the knees. We're coming into our puppy dog pose. So this time we're pushing down our body into those forearms, lifting our tailbone, and we can either bring our forehead down onto the mat or we can just allow it to hover off the mat. And then from here we're simply going to continue on with our arms and come all the way down into our Sphinx pose. So we've got the tops of our feet pressed down into the mat. We're on our hands, our fingers are spread nice and wide, and we're just looking forward. So we should just feel a little back stretch here. Now if you do have lower back problems, just bring your feet to the outside edges of the mat just to release some of the tension there. If you don't, you can have your feet together. And then we're simply going to just look forward to start with. We're then going to slowly start to bow the head, really pushing in through the arms as you arch the back. And then on an inhale, we're going to lift up with the head, look up towards the ceiling. So this does put a lot of pressure on your back. So if this starts to pinch or to hurt, just bring it down a little bit. And we're just going to do a couple of waves of this in your own breath. Just enjoying that lower back stretch. And when you're ready, we're just going to find stillness back where we began. From here, we're just going to lower down, bring our hands underneath the shoulders. We're turning over the feet and we're going to come up into our first downward facing dog. So we're coming into that upside down V shape. Now this might be the first one of the day. So we're just going to bend the knees one at a time as we start to pedal out this position. Seeing if we can get those heels towards the floor. Maybe just give the head a little bit of a shake, forward and back. And then we're just going to find stillness in this posture. So you might be here. This might be as far as you can get to today. But if you can start to straighten those legs, maybe bring those heels down onto the floor, we're finding that nice downward facing dog. And just taking a couple of breaths here. just going to walk those hands towards the feet. And when we get there, we're just going to heel toe those feet so they come a little bit wider. Put a bend in the knees, and then we're just going to hang down in ragdoll. So we're taking our hands on opposite elbows and just hanging over those knees, and then just giving ourselves a little bit of a sway from side to side. Giving that lower back a bit of a massage, maybe feeling that in the back of your hamstrings depending on what you've been doing today. And then when you're ready, just releasing those hands, making a nice arch in the back, and then we're slowly pushing down through the feet as we come all the way up to standing, stacking those vertebrae one at a time, and then just rolling back the shoulders and just bringing those feet a little bit in. As we inhale, we're going to bring the arms all the way above the head. We're going to pistol grip the hands together, and we're just going to slightly lean over to the right hand side. Nice oblique stretch here. And then inhaling to come up, look up. And then as you exhale, we come over to the other side. Inhaling to come up, bringing the hands all the way down to prayer, and then we're going to continue to fold, keeping a flat back as we bring the fingertips down onto the floor, and then we're just going to walk ourselves all the way back to our downward facing dog. So back where we began. We're going to lift the right leg nice and high, three-legged dog. And then we're going to bend the knee, bring the foot under the body and place it on the outside of the right hand. And we're just going to lower that back leg down. We're going to bring the right hand onto the inside of the right knee, and we're just going to push our foot over onto the knife edge and just let that knee come out to the side, so we're stretching across our hips. Now we might want to stay here, or we might want to bring our arm behind us facing towards our feet, so it just means that that shoulder's externally rotating even more, so we're giving it a nice stretch. And if you want to make the stretch a little deeper, you can lift up the foot, take it in the hand, and then push the foot into the hand, into your tiger. So wherever you are, you should be feeling this stretch across the hips. And then if the foot's raised, we're slowly lowering it down. We're just going to ease that knee back to centre, bring the hand back inside the foot. As we inhale, we're coming up onto our fingertips, straightening the spine and looking forward. And as we exhale, we're coming down onto the hands. Maybe we can come down onto the forearms. Maybe we can bring our head all the way down onto the mat. So we're coming into our lizard lunge. So it's really important to use your breath here. We're using those exhales to get a little bit deeper towards the mat even. Just allowing our body to become a little bit more comfortable in what isn't a comfortable posture. And then we'll have one more breath here. On our inhale, we'll start to come up onto our hands. Bring the right hand to the outside of that right foot. Turn over those back toes. Bring that foot back to meet it, so we're in our high plank. And then we're going to come down through our vinyasa. And I'm going to go through chaturanga. So as we exhale, we're lowering down with the elbows. We're hovering down. Inhaling as we come up, we pull those shoulders back. And we have a nice gap between us and the mat. And then as we exhale, we turn over the feet. And we come back into our downward facing dog. And we just have a couple of breaths here before we go on to the other side. So as we inhale, we lift the left leg high. We bend the knee, bring the foot all the way under the body and place it on the outside of that left hand and lower the back leg down. We're bringing that left hand to the inside of the left knee and just opening that leg onto the knife edge. So you're already starting to feel a nice stretch, but if you want to go a little bit further, you can bring that left hand all the way back, looking over at the hand. And if you want to make it a little bit deeper, you've got the option of bringing that foot up, taking it in the hand, and then just pushing the foot away. If the foot's lifted, slowly lowering it down, bringing the hand to the outside knee and just bringing it back to centre, and then bringing that hand back down. As we inhale, we're going to come up onto our fingertips, look forward, and then as we exhale, we're going to slowly start to lower down, maybe coming onto the hands, maybe the forearms, maybe coming all the way down onto the head. Just using that breath to get you there. On your next inhale, slowly rising up, bring the left hand to the outside of that left foot. Turn over the back toes, bring that left foot back so you're in your plank, and then we're going to come down through our vinyasa. So exhaling to hover down, inhaling to come up, and exhaling to find your way back to downward facing dog. On your next inhale, coming up onto the toes, putting a little bend in those knees, looking forward, step or floating to the front. As you inhale, we come up to halfway lift, hands on shins or fingertips to the floor. Nice flat back. As we exhale, we fold all the way down, so forward fold. And as we inhale, we rise all the way up, hands to heart center. Take a nice deep breath here. As we inhale, we bring the arms up. Exhaling, folding all the way down, forward fold. As we inhale, halfway lift, flat back. Exhaling, hands to the floor, step back with the right foot and lower that right knee down. As we inhale, lifting the arms all the way up, just a little bit of a lean back to a crescent lunge, and then bring the hands all the way down. Left foot comes back, we're in our high plank, we're exhaling to lower down through our vinyasa, moving with the breath. Lifting the right leg, bringing the foot all the way to the front, lowering the back leg down, inhaling as you bring the arms up. Quick, low crescent lunge, bringing the hands back either side of the foot, lifting up those toes, stepping into the front, hands to shins, halfway lift. Exhaling, folding all the way down. Inhaling to rise all the way up. Tadasana, mountain pose. Inhaling to come up. Exhaling, folding all the way down. Inhale to halfway lift, flat back. Exhaling, hands to the floor, step back with the right foot and turn on that right foot. Keep a bend in that left, and as you inhale, windmill the arms, finding your warrior two. So hips parallel with the long side of the mat. That knee is opening up to try and come over to the little toes, and the arms are nice and high, and we're looking over that front middle finger. So also making sure those shoulders are nice and relaxed. On your inhale, we're straightening that front leg, flipping the palms, reaching forward with the arms, back with the hips. And when you can't go any further, we're coming into our triangle pose, our Trikonasana. So the most important thing with this pose isn't that we're trying to touch the floor, it's that we have length in our body and we have our shoulders as open as we can. So we're stretching up that right arm as if we're being pulled up towards the ceiling, and we're opening out that chest. So a couple of options here. You can bring your hand onto the ankle and just pull away, so making yourself even longer, or you can come into a bind, so you're bringing that right hand around the back of the body on the inside of that thigh, and that left arm is going to come out in front and you're going to look over towards that hand. So wherever you are, just breathing in that posture. If you're in the bind, we're just going to lower that hand down, bring that right hand back up. We're going to look down at that foot, put a bend in the knee, push back to our warrior two. Frame that front foot, bring that foot back to meet the other, so we're back in our plank, and then we're lowering down through our vinyasa. And if you want to miss any of these vinyasas, simply meet back in downward facing dog, just remembering that it's your body and you can do whatever you need to do. Lifting the right leg, bringing it all the way through to the front. This time we're pivoting on that left foot, and we're going to lift up with the arms as we come into our warrior two on the other side. So again, just checking that alignment. Nice, strong warrior two. As we inhale, we straighten that front leg, flip the palms, reach the arms forward, the hips come back, and we start to turn into our triangle pose. And again, you've got the option. You can bring that hand to the ankle, pull that hand away, or you can bring that left hand around the back, open out the leg, pull back that left shoulder, and lift the arm. If you're in the bind, bringing that hand down, the left arm comes back up. We're looking down at the foot, putting a bend back in the knee as you come back to your warrior two. Framing the front foot, bringing the right foot back to meet it, so you're back in your high plank and coming down through vinyasa. Finding your downward facing dog, just enjoying a couple of breaths here. On your next inhale, coming up onto the toes, putting a bend in the knees, looking forward, step or floating to the front. Inhaling to halfway lift, flat back. Exhaling to forward fold. Inhaling to rise all the way up. Tadasana, mountain pose. Inhaling to go up. Exhaling, hands through heart center, folding all the way down. Inhaling to halfway lift, flat back. Exhaling, hands to the floor. This time we're stepping or jumping back to plank. We're coming down through our vinyasa. Finding that downward facing dog again. This time we're lifting the right leg high. We're going to bend at the knee, stack the hips, look under the right armpit. And then we're going to bring that foot all the way through to the front. Keep that back heel lifted and inhale as we come up to high lunge. So that back leg is nice and straight. Got a nice 90-degree angle in that right knee. From here we're going to bring our hands down to centre. We're going to start to transfer that weight into that front foot and lift up the back leg. So as we lean forward, we lift that back foot off the mat, we start to turn into that T shape. And the hands can stay in prayer, or we can bring them out behind us. Going to bring the hands back to centre. Step all the way back. So we're back in our high lunge. Arms come up. We're going to bring our hands to heart centre, and then we're going to bring our left elbow to the outside of the right knee in a twist. So we're pressing our hands together, turning our chest. If you want, you can bring that hand down to the floor, open out the hand. And then just bringing that hand back to centre, back to prayer, turning to face the front, planting the hands either side of the foot, bringing the foot back to plank and coming down through your vinyasa. Left leg high. Bending at the knee, looking under the left armpit, stacking those hips as much as you can. And then bringing the foot all the way through to the front, keeping the back heel lifted. And inhaling as we come up and find our high lunge. So nice and straight back leg, looking forward. Bringing the hands to heart centre, to prayer. We're going to start to put all of the weight into that front foot, starting to lean forward, follow the gaze, and then tipping up so we find that T shape. And again, the hands can go out in front or behind, or for a bit of balance, you can keep them at your chest. Squeezing that stomach in. Then bringing the hands back to prayer, stepping back, getting your balance, coming back to your high lunge, and then we're bringing our hands to prayer. We're going to bring that right elbow to the outside of that left knee and twist, with the option of opening out if we want to. Finding that position to the side again, coming back to front, lifting the arms, framing the front foot, bring the left foot back to meet it, so we're back in our plank position again, and then one last vinyasa. So as we exhale, we hover down, inhaling to come up, really pulling back those shoulders, and turning over those feet as we find our downward facing dog. And this time on our inhale, we're coming up onto the toes, putting a bend in the knees, looking forward and jumping or stepping through to seated. So bringing the feet forward in a cross, and then slowly sitting back down. And then we're just going to release those feet out in front. So we're just going to remove the flesh from our seat bone. So we're sitting up as straight as we can. We want to have those feet nicely flexed, and we've got a nice straight spine. So we can start by just bringing our hands down by our side, looking forward, and taking a couple of deep breaths in our Dandasana, our staff pose. then we're just going to bend in that left foot. Bring the right hand to the outside. And then we're going to lift that left leg up. You can have a bend in it if you need to, or you can try and straighten that leg, but we really want to keep this spine straight as well. Keep those right toes flexed, and then with that left hand, we're simply opening it behind us, and we're looking over at the hand. So we're in our half Lord of the Fishes pose. So just remember to keep breathing. Coming back round to the front, we're going to bring that left foot to the outside of that right thigh. Right thigh. We're going to keep those right toes flexed. We're going to sit up nice and straight. We've got a couple of options here. So option number one is to bring our right hand, wrap it around that knee, bring the hand to the top of the left thigh, and then with that left hand we put it behind us, we sit up straight and we twist. So that is option number one. Option number two, we lift that right arm all the way up, nice big stretch, bring the elbow to the outside of that knee, and then we use that connection between the knee and the elbow to continue that twist even more. And option number three, for anyone that's a little bit more flexible and used to going into the bind, we're going to bring that right hand through the gap in between the leg, join it with the other hand, flex those toes at the front and then twist. And whichever your position in, we're just taking a couple of breaths here. If you're in the bind, slowly coming out. And then we're just going to look forward to the front, pick up that leg and bring it back down. And we're going to do that same sequence with the other side. So bringing that right leg into the chest, giving a bit of a squeeze. Left hand comes around the outside of that right foot. And we're just going to lift up the leg. So a nice straight leg if we can, and a nice straight spine. And then with the hand, just going to open it out to the back of the room, keeping the fingers flexed. Both sets of toes are flexed and we're looking over at that hand. Then we're just going to bring that hand back round to the front, lower the foot on the outside of the left shin, thigh even, and then we have the options that we had before. So option number one, bringing the left arm around the outside of the leg, left hand comes onto the thigh, right arm comes behind us, we sit up straight on an inhale, and on an exhale we twist. Option two, lifting up the arm, bringing it to the outside of that knee, using that connection to twist even further, so it becomes a much deeper stretch. And then option three, you can bring that hand through the leg, bring that right hand around, join them together, sit up nice and tall, and then looking over the right shoulder. So you've got your pick, whichever one you would prefer to do. But just remembering to keep breathing through the posture, keep those feet flexed, and keep that spine as tall as you can. Slowly coming out of the bind, and then we're just going to bring that leg, bring it back down to meet the other one, and then we're just going to shimmy our way towards the front of the mat, keeping our knees bent, our feet on the mat, and then we're just going to bring our hands behind us so that our fingertips are facing towards our feet, and we're going to push up into our reverse tabletop. So we're squeezing those glutes. We can keep that head so that it's tucked in, or we can allow the neck to roll all the way back. And this is option one. If you want to go a little bit further than this, we're going to straighten those legs, plant the feet on the mat, push the hips high, and then let the head rock back. Whichever position you're in, just going to slowly start to lower down all the way onto the mat. And when we get there, we're keeping those legs straight, flexing the feet. Hands are going to come up out in front, and we're just going to very slowly start to curve the spine and slide ourselves all the way down to a lying position on the mat. We're going to bring the arms overhead, stretch the feet out, and have a nice full body stretch. And then we're just going to bring those knees into the chest. Give yourself a nice hug. Maybe take the opposite elbows, hands onto the opposite elbows, and just make yourself as small as you can. And slowly releasing down, bringing those knees to a 90-degree angle, and have the hands coming to cactus out by the sides with the fingers spread nice and wide, palms facing up. And then we're just going to look over the left hand side and just allow the knees to come all the way down to the right. We want to make sure those shoulder blades stay glued to the mat. Nice deep inhalations and exhalations as you start to find that breath that you found at the beginning. Sometimes we lose it during our practice. On your next inhale, just slowly lifting those knees up. And then we're going to look over the right hand side, and we're coming over to the left. And again, just keeping those shoulders glued to the mat. If you feel them starting to peel off, just start to bring those legs up a little bit. And then using that inhale, bring your knees all the way up to centre. Give them one last hug. Maybe doing any last movements here that you feel you need to do. Maybe a rock from side to side. Any last thing before you come into your final resting pose, your Shavasana. So coming into your Shavasana, we bring our feet to the outside edges of the mat and just allow them to drop open to the side. Hands down by the sides, palms facing up, and then we just want to make sure our head's in a nice straight line. So maybe lifting it up, looking towards the end of the mat and lowering it straight back down. Now if you're someone that suffers from lower back pain, or this just doesn't feel particularly comfortable for you, the other option is to bring your feet to the outside edges of the mat and just allow them to drop in the centre so they can support each other. And then from there we're just going to close down the eyes. Just enjoy this last few moments of relaxation, of peace, as we observe how our body's feeling now compared to how it was at the beginning, how our mind is feeling. Maybe thanking ourselves for giving us this time to relax and unwind and stretch in a way that our body's really needing. And while you lie here on your mat, just know that for this moment in time, you don't need to be anywhere else, just here. As always, if you want to spend a bit more time in Shavasana, just turn off the phone, the computer, and just lie here for as long as you feel you need to. If you're starting to come back onto the mat, just starting to get ready to end your practice, we're just going to start to slowly wiggle our fingers, wiggle our toes, as we start to bring a little bit of life back into the body. Maybe moving the head from one side to the other. And then we're just going to bring the legs in one by one, so the left followed by the right. Bring the hands loosely around them. And then we're just going to roll over to the right hand side to our fetal position. We can use our right hand as a pillow. And we can keep our eyes shut for now if we want to. And then with both our hands, we're just going to slowly push ourselves up to a nice, comfortable seated position back on our mat. So just crossing the legs. Just bringing the hands onto the knees. Just do a couple of nice shoulder rolls. A nice way to end our practice. And then just bringing your hands to heart center, pressing the thumbs into the chest, and just bowing your head in thanks for your practice this evening. Thank you very much for joining me again. Hopefully I will see you again soon. Please do share this, tag friends, and let's get more people practicing yoga. Namaste.